Hey everybody, and welcome to part 10 of the Arid Heights Park playthrough. Now in the last episode, we built out this suspended looping coaster here, as well as the start of the Egyptian themed area. But after I was done, I thought I would switch it over to a B&M invert style track instead. The main reason being, I've already kind of got the aerodynamics or Vekoma style looking track in the big looper at the start near the entrance of the park. So yeah, I just wanted to get a bit more variety in terms of like track style in the park. So I made that quick change, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. The stats actually improved a fair bit too. Anyway, so on to the main portion of the build here. So as well as changing the track type for the inverted coaster, I actually made a few changes to the station building. I had a very fair bit of constructive criticism, regarding the queue line and the exit path from a Jappy or Yappy. So I really appreciated that. Basically, it was saying that the queue line was kind of somewhat wasted. It was kind of just stuck on the side and didn't really form part of the station building. So I made that change. I basically just switched over the entrance and exit tiles and basically just made sure that the entrance to the queue line was actually within the kind of meat of that building. So I think I'm pretty happy with how that change worked, and I just kind of stuck the exit path over more on the side, which I think makes a little bit more sense. And I've just kind of got that that Egyptian style monument sitting on its own now, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it looks nice and tidy over there. Had to make a few adjustments with the foliage as well, but that wasn't too much effort. Also raised the Sphinx monument just up one more tile because it was it didn't look as kind of impressive or as prominent when it was at the same level as the path that kind of ran around the perimeter. So yeah, just raised that one tile, and I think that looks a little bit more impressive there. So the main kind of attraction that I'm going to be working on in this episode is a log flume. Now it feels like it's been ages since I built a log flume in any of my parks really. So it was nice to kind of get back into building one of them. It's a pretty simple, straightforward one. There's not a whole lot to it. I wanted to go for mostly an indoor or dark ride, I suppose. Just kind of running it through a big building here. But yeah, it's just got some the main kind of feature, I suppose, is the big drop right next to the path. So I wanted some nice interaction there next to the Sphinx monument. As well as that, I just tried to put in a few twists and turns, made pretty heavy use of the S-bend element, which I think is pretty essential with log flumes, just because you're so limited in the amount of pieces you can build on out with. So there was a couple of those pieces there. I used a couple of the reverser turntables as well, just to make sure that, I don't know, there'd be a little bit more variety there too. And I think they add to the excitement rating a fair bit as well. So now, as I've said many times, RCT1 style buildings are pretty painful overall. So I first built out the ride itself without the landscaping building, just to make sure I was happy with that. And then I basically just started raising the terrain and replacing the ride as I kind of replaced it with the large sections of terrain to make that building. So yeah, it wasn't actually as painful as I thought it would be, so that was good. Now I tried my best to make the building look as interesting as I could. It is kind of hard to make big buildings especially look non-boxy, I suppose, but I think I did a reasonable job in just making sure that there was a few kind of variations in height and just the overall footprint. I made sure that wasn't a perfect rectangle, and yeah, I think it worked out alright in the end. To get some kind of interesting frontage near the queue line, I basically just had some path go over the main kind of splashdown section of the log flume and put in a few of those no entry signs, or not no entry signs, just banners, I guess, that kind of just cross over between the path and the the landscape building, I guess. So I think that turned out alright. Just it's a bit more exciting than just having a big flat kind of cream colored wall. So yeah, I was happy with how that turned out. I wasn't so keen on the path supports to start with, but I eventually settled on them. I don't think they're too bad. Something that just occurred to me is I could perhaps use chairlift cables to block those path supports, but all in all, I'm actually not too unhappy with how they look. Just those kind of skinny yellow supports. I don't think they're too bad, so I'll probably keep them in. I tried to add in a few kind of different trims to the building. So at first I just used the Egyptian style walls around the kind of base of the building, around the perimeter, but then I thought I'd change it over to the castle wall pieces, and I think that looks a little bit more sensible, as well as providing a little bit of variety to the area, because I realize I am probably going a little bit overboard with the Egyptian style stone fence, even though it is a really good looking fence in my opinion. It is always good to try and get some variety where you can. Up the top of the building I put in a few of the abstract kind of fences and colored them grey just to kind of match in with the roof there. Something I'm probably going to go back and add to the roof in the next episode is some either monorail track or dinghy slide to make it look like some air conditioning sort of vents, just to go for a little bit more realism. But yeah, I think the building all in all, I was very happy with. Buildings aren't my strong suit in RCT1 or RCT2, but yeah, this is probably one of my better ones. It's a little bit kind of messy towards the queue line, or the start of the queue line, but yeah, overall I'm pretty pleased with it. So then it was time to go in and fill a few gaps around the remainder of the area, especially behind the Sphinx monument and in front of the pyramid. Just added in a few shops and stalls around the area. There was very little in terms of shops and stalls for the guests up at this end of the park, so I did need to put in a few of them. Just put in just some basic kind of landscaping and foliage around that building. And then it was time to get on with another building for the last of the train station platforms. Now, since the last building turned out pretty well, I was actually pretty kind of confident going into this one, and yeah, I was eventually pretty happy with how this one turned out as well. I had already built 3 kind of large buildings for the other train station platforms as well, so I was happy to get the last one out of the way and eventually open up this train, which I don't think I did quite in this episode. I'll definitely do that next episode. But with this one, I went for kind of a similar overall shape as the other ones around the park, but obviously going for a bit more of an Egyptian theme. So I was throwing around a few ideas, but I eventually settled on using these kind of little columns around the kind of perimeter of the building, and then putting some path essentially just on top of that. And I think it looks like a pretty convincing looking kind of palace or monument kind of structure. So I was happy with how that looked. Then of course I had to go in and make sure that the entrances, or the path entrances to the Egyptian themed area had the same kind of entrance mini building as the other entrances I built earlier. I had to move the entrance and exit from the from that train station platform just to kind of, because originally I had them on the edge of the building, but then I decided to bring it one tile in, and then I put it basically in the middle after all. So it was a little bit of tinkering to get that right, but I was I think it looked pretty good in the end. Now I was really having trouble deciding what to do with the kind of backside of the pyramid here. My first thought was to build basically just a simple path going around the perimeter of the pyramid there, but I thought that was a little bit, maybe a little bit boring, and I thought I do have space for maybe one more attraction. The other option, of course, was to just do a bit of landscaping and put some of those, just some of those oriental trees and a couple kind of shrubs scattered about. But I thought it was a good place for a mini golf, actually. Now, a lot of the rides in the Egyptian themed areas so far were pretty lush in terms of their decoration, like both the coaster and the log flume. They're basically covered in like pretty lush looking foliage. So I wanted to make sure that I get something, maybe a little bit more with an Egyptian ruin sort of theme. So I basically converted the track into sort of a cream or sandy looking color, and I think it adds a little bit of variety to the area. I realize sand is probably not the best surface to have in a theme park, but I thought, what the hell, and like the edges of the map, this whole park's surrounded in sand anyway, so yeah, I thought, why not? Now, I also got a little bit distracted here by the front of the train station building. It was kind of bothering me how it was just a strip of green land there, so I wanted to kind of make a nice little entrance with a few flowers and a little pond and a few nice gardens and shrubs. Now, you may have noticed in the last episode that the guest count was actually dropping quite significantly. That was quite deliberate. I actually put a no entry sign basically one tile in from the entrance of the park. So basically all guests that came in would just walk in that one tile and leave after a few minutes. Basically, the reason is I don't want to hit the guest count and achieve the scenario objective before I've filled out the map. That's what I ended up doing there. The park was kind of really emptying out though. We were down to like 600 or 700 guests at one point, so I decided to remove that banner just before, just to get a few more numbers in. I'll have to be careful and make sure that I keep my eye on that before I finish, hopefully in the next episode or two. The good thing about using that no entry banner right there was, although the guests were obviously very unhappy because of the crowding issues, the fact that they'd leave the park quite soon after, it didn't actually impact the park rating too much, so I was never really in danger of having the park shut down. Now, the last thing I end up doing for the episode is just decorating the mini golf. I wanted to give it a very obvious like Egyptian ruin sort of theme, so I put in a few fences and just spam those ruins everywhere. Although there's only a limited set to choose from, I think there's 4 or 5 different quarter tile pieces you can use. As long as you rotate them, they actually look more than the 4 or 5, if that makes sense. Oh, and actually there was another couple things to finish off here. That was add in a motion simulator into the center of the pyramid, which I only just found out a few weeks ago that they're actually hollow, and just added in a couple more shops and stalls kind of underneath that pyramid as well, and incorporated that into the pathing network. Anyway, I think that's just about all I've got time for. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in the next one. Alright, cheers. Bye.